Right now, as you're watching this video, your phone has probably buzzed at least twice. Maybe you've glanced at another tab, or your mind has wandered to that thing you're supposed to be doing later. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't your fault. Your mind wasn't built for this world. For 200,000 years, human brains evolved to scan for predators, track seasonal changes, and focus on immediate survival needs. Then, in just the last 20 years, we created a digital environment that's specifically designed to fracture your attention into 1,000 tiny pieces. We're trying to run ancient software on the modern demands, and we're wondering why we're constantly overwhelmed. I spent 3 years diving deep into the science of attention, reading hundreds of research papers, interviewing neuroscientists, and personally experimenting with over 40 different focus techniques to understand why concentration feels impossible today. What I discovered will change how you think about your mind forever, because the crisis you're experiencing isn't a personal failing, it's a species-wide emergency that nobody's talking about. Let me paint you a picture of what's actually happening to your brain right now. Every time you pick up your phone, you're not just checking a message, you're entering what researchers call a continuous partial attention state. Your brain thinks it's multitasking, but neurologically, you're actually task switching hundreds of times per hour. Each switch costs you. Dr. Sophie Leroy at the University of Washington discovered something called attention residue. When you move from one task to another, part of your mind literally gets stuck on the previous task. It's like mental quicksand that slows down everything you tried to do next. Now multiply that by every notification, every email, every social media check. By the end of the day, your cognitive resources are completely depleted, and you can't figure out why you feel so mentally exhausted. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. This isn't happening by accident. The companies capturing your attention employ teams of neuroscientists, behavioral economists, and data scientists whose entire job is to make their products irresistible. They study the same dopamine pathways that addiction researchers study. Your attention isn't just wandering, it's being systematically harvested. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. Every time you respond to a notification, every time you task switch, every time you choose the quick dopamine hit over deep focus, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways. You're training your brain to crave distraction. Dr. Adam Ghazali's research at UCSF shows that people who frequently multitask actually get worse at multitasking. Their brains become less capable of filtering irrelevant information. Think about that for a moment. The thing you think is making you more productive is actually making you worse at thinking. I realized this when I tried to read a book, an actual physical book, after years of digital consumption. My eyes would track the words, but my brain couldn't follow the arguments. I had trained my mind to expect information in bite-sized chunks, and anything longer felt overwhelming. That was my wake-up call. I had become cognitively impaired by my own habits. Here's the cruel irony. The more we need focus in our lives, the harder it becomes to achieve. Knowledge work, the kind most of us do now, requires deep, sustained attention. Programming, writing, problem-solving, creative thinking. These activities need what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls flow states. But flow requires uninterrupted time, something increasingly rare in our hyper-connected world. Meanwhile, the demands on our attention keep multiplying. Slack notifications, email alerts, text messages, social media updates, news notifications, calendar reminders. The average knowledge worker checks email every 11 minutes and takes 23 minutes to fully refocus after an interruption. Do the math. If you're interrupted every 11 minutes and it takes 23 minutes to refocus, you literally never reach a state of deep focus during a normal workday. We've created a world where the very thing we need most, sustained attention, has become virtually impossible to achieve. Let me explain why your brain can't resist these distractions, even when you know they're hurting you. Your ancestors survived because they paid attention to every rustle in the bushes, every change in the environment. Curiosity and alertness to novelty kept them alive. So evolution wired your brain to find new information irresistibly compelling. That notification sound? Your brain processes it as potential survival information. Tech companies have hijacked these ancient survival mechanisms. They've turned your evolutionary strengths into modern weaknesses. Understanding dopamine is crucial to understanding why focus feels so difficult. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical, it's the seeking chemical. It doesn't make you feel good, it makes you want more. Social media platforms have gamified this system. Variable ratio reinforcement keeps you checking for likes, comments, and messages. But here's the devastating part. Every time you get that dopamine hit from a notification, you make it harder to get dopamine from slower, more meaningful activities. Reading a book, having a deep conversation, working on a challenging project. These activities start feeling boring by comparison. You're not losing your attention span. You're becoming addicted to distraction. The inability to focus isn't just about productivity. It's about who you're becoming as a person. Deep focus is where insight happens. It's where you process complex emotions, make meaning from experiences, and develop your sense of self. When you're constantly distracted, you're not just losing efficiency, you're losing the capacity for self-reflection and personal growth. Studies have shown that many people struggle to sit alone with their thoughts for even 15 minutes without reaching for their phone. We've become so uncomfortable with our own minds that we'd rather scroll through meaningless content than face a moment of genuine solitude. But here's the good news: you can fight back. Your brain's neuroplasticity works both ways. Just as you can train yourself to be distracted, you can train yourself to focus. But it requires more than willpower. It requires systematic rewiring of your attention habits. First, understand that this is a skill, not a talent. Focus is like a muscle that atrophies with disuse and strengthens with practice. Start with what I call attention hygiene, treating your focus as carefully as you treat your physical health. Create sacred spaces. Designate specific times and places where devices are not allowed. Your brain needs to remember what undivided attention feels like. This directly combats the attention residue problem. When you have a device-free zone, your brain can finally let go of the previous task completely. Practice single tasking. Choose one thing and do only that thing. When your mind wants to switch, notice the impulse without acting on it. You're literally rewiring those neural pathways we discussed, teaching your brain that it's safe to ignore the novelty-seeking impulse. Use the phone parking technique. When you need to focus, physically place your phone in another room. Research shows that the mere presence of your phone reduces cognitive performance. By doing this, you're deliberately starving that overstimulated dopamine-seeking pathway. You're teaching your brain that it doesn't need the constant novelty hit, allowing slower, more meaningful dopamine sources, like solving a hard problem, to become rewarding again. Schedule your distractions. Instead of checking email randomly throughout the day, batch these activities into specific time slots. This breaks the variable ratio reinforcement cycle that keeps you constantly checking. Your brain learns when to expect stimulation and when to settle into deep work. Deep focus isn't just nice to have, it's your cognitive birthright. It's the state in which humans do their best thinking, their most creative work, their most meaningful learning. When you reclaim your ability to focus, you don't just become more productive, you become more creative, more insightful, more capable of complex thought. You remember what it feels like to be fully present in your own life. The greatest thinkers in history, Einstein, Darwin, Tesla, all had one thing in common: the ability to sustain deep focus for hours at a time. We can't go back to their world, but we can create pockets of it in our lives. In a world where everyone is distracted, your ability to focus deeply becomes a superpower. While others are juggling 12 tasks poorly, you can do one thing extraordinarily well. While others are consuming information superficially, you can develop deep expertise. While others are reacting to every input, you can choose where to direct your mental energy. The people who learn to focus in this distracted world will have an unprecedented advantage. Imagine your life 6 months from now with a trained attention span. You sit down to work on something important, and your mind doesn't immediately start searching for distractions. You can read an entire book without your attention fragmenting. You can have conversations without feeling the phantom buzz of your phone. You can think big thoughts because you've given your mind space to think them. This isn't fantasy, it's entirely achievable. But it requires recognizing that your current relationship with technology isn't serving you. Most importantly, it requires understanding that your attention is the most valuable resource you have. It's literally how you experience life. Where you place your attention determines the quality of your existence. Right now you have a choice. You can continue living in a state of continuous partial attention, always busy but never fully present, always connected but increasingly isolated from your own thoughts and feelings. Or you can join the focus rebellion. You can reclaim your cognitive birthright. You can train your ancient brain to thrive in the modern world without being enslaved by it. Your mind wasn't built for this world, but it can be trained to master it. The question isn't whether you can develop better focus. The question is whether you're willing to do the work to reclaim the quality of attention that technology has gradually stolen from you. Because on the other side of that work isn't just better productivity or less stress. On the other side is a life where you're fully present for your own existence, where you can think deeply, feel fully, and create meaningfully. Your scattered attention isn't a character flaw. It's a symptom of living in a world designed to fracture your focus. But now, you know the truth. And with that truth comes the power to choose differently. The focus rebellion starts now. If you're ready to reclaim your attention and train your mind for deep work, type "Focus is my superpower" in the comments below. Let's build a community of people committed to thinking deeply in a shallow world.